We've got some breaking news out of Wimbledon on the men's draw. Grigor Dimitrov has retired in his match against world number 1 Jannik Sinner. He won the first 2 sets and was tied 2-2 in the third. This was Dimitrov's first appearance in the quarterfinals at the All England Club since 2014. And Sinner now off to the quarters, as this was the round of 16. For the third time in the past 4 years, he's seeking his 4th Grand Slam, his first career title at Wimbledon. And next up for him, the Italian, is a semifinal matchup against 10-seed American Ben Shelton on Wednesday. I'm Tommy Tran here with CiCi Bellis here, and what a development we have at the All England Club here. Just give me your thoughts on what we witnessed here, as Grigor Dimitrov was certainly in prime position for the upset before that injury.
Yeah, this is such sad scenes out there. You can see how much pain he was in. It was on a serve that something happened to his pec. It looked like he may have torn it. Immediately kind of fell to the ground in pain, walked off the court, and then ultimately decided, it wasn't going to be his day and he wasn't going to continue. So really sad scenes. He was playing some of the best tennis, if not the best match we've seen from him all year. Again, had Sinner down 2-0. I think he would have pulled this one out if he would have continued. It was not Sinner's day, and Dimitrov was playing, again, just some of the best tennis we've seen. So really, really sad to see. And honestly, for Sinner, not the way he would have wanted to come through. He would have wanted to, grit that out in a 5-set victory. But honestly, for his semifinal, I think it's a good matchup for him against Ben Shelton, in the quarterfinal. But again, really just tough scenes for Dimitrov. He's had to pull out of the last 5 Grand Slams and retire due to injury, so his body really breaking down on him now. Back-to-back
days, we have a player retire at Wimbledon. It was Jordan Thompson yesterday with those back issues against American Taylor Fritz. And interestingly enough, if we just keep it with the Sinner side of things here, CiCi, from a player perspective, again, it hasn't been your day. You were in danger of losing this match. You have this result, and now you have to turn things around for the next round. As a player, how do you go through the motions of the next 24 to 48 hours?
Yeah, honestly, it's really difficult. Sinner hadn't lost a set coming into this round of 16 match, so it was very strange for him to go down 2-0. It will feel like imposter syndrome a little bit for him to get through this one, coming from the retirement and not having to kind of, grind it out in 5 sets. So, it's not easy for him, honestly. Mentally, this is going to be really challenging for him, but he's got a great team around him that will support him and give him that positive energy he needs to turn it around for the quarterfinal.
You hinted at the matchup at hand. What's it going to take for Ben Shelton to play his best tennis and come away with a win?
I think it's a positive for Ben to see that Sinner, wasn't playing incredible tennis today and is human. I think that's a really strong positive for Ben going into this. Ben can beat anyone when he's playing well. So I think if Ben really focuses on, high first serve percentage, playing within himself for big targets, he can give Sinner a run for his money. I think if Sinner shows up like he has so far in the tournament, excluding today, it will be tough for Ben. But again, Sinner's human. We saw that today. So we'll see if, he continues that form or if he can kind of turn it around for the quarter.
We had these two in the round of 16 where Sinner got it done, of course, in straight sets. It'll be interesting to see this time around how that matchup plays out. CiCi, certainly appreciate it. Thanks for hopping on HQ to give us the insight of what we just saw. Again, Jannik Sinner was down 2 sets, 2-2 in the third to Dimitrov, and then a retirement due to injury. Now he moves on to the quarterfinals. Top half of that bracket still has Novak Djokovic, who got to his 63rd career major Grand Slam quarterfinal. And then down at the bottom, American Taylor Fritz got through Jordan Thompson, who had to retire due to back issues, as I mentioned. He's on to the quarterfinals. He will face potentially Cam Norrie or Carlos Alcaraz. Alcaraz continues to be the betting favorite. At one point, you could have actually gotten a little bit of value on Sinner, close to 4-1, but now he is back to being the second favorite on the futures market, plus 175 against Carlos Alcaraz's plus 110.
For more, welcoming in CBS Sports tennis analyst CiCi Bellis. CiCi, we have to start with what happened with Grigor Dimitrov being forced to retire in the third set against Jannik Sinner, despite being up 2-0. He had the top-ranked player in the world on the ropes. It's Dimitrov's 5th straight retirement at a Grand Slam. What was your reaction to his latest disappointing moment on Monday?
Yeah, it's such a tough scene out there. Honestly, just to, set the scene, Sinner's been playing so incredibly well. He hasn't lost a set here at Wimbledon. People like to kind of compare him to Alcaraz. That's, kind of the easiest person to, compare and contrast, but they're two totally different players. Sinner is a much more, kind of consistently good player, where Alcaraz can have kind of higher highs and lower lows, a bit more, up and down. And, going into this, didn't think Sinner would have any issue with Dimitrov, and was really shocked with the first set and a half, especially. But I think, at the end of the day, Sinner's human. He can't be perfect all the time. His first serve percentage was really low in the first set and a half and was having an overall kind of off day. And Dimitrov, on the other hand, was playing some of the best tennis we've seen from him all year. Sinner got the break back in the second set, thought the momentum might have been kind of shifting in his favor, but Grigor broke right back at love and served the set out. And then, at 2-2 in the third set is when Dimitrov, hit a serve and really injured his pec, was, kind of sitting on the court for a while in horrible pain, took an injury timeout, was escorted off the court to do kind of an evaluation, came back, was in tears. It was a really hard watch. He couldn't play anymore. So it's kind of, bittersweet for Sinner. I know he would have loved to, really grit it out in 5 sets and kind of come back there, but, he'll take it and, just kind of have to get into the right mental headspace and not kind of be in that imposter syndrome, I guess, in the semifinals.
Right, because you mentioned you don't want to see a guy go down like we saw Dimitrov, but if you are Sinner, how much of a break is it to advance in this fashion? He wasn't playing his best. He's got to get his mind right as he moves forward.
Yeah, absolutely. He hadn't lost a set so far, and he lost 2 right away in this match. So it was looking like Dimitrov was going to win it, unfortunately for him, of course. But, Sinner will take it. He's taking on American Ben Shelton in the quarterfinals. I think Shelton would have rather seen Dimitrov in the quarter, so maybe Sinner can kind of take that and use it to his advantage a little bit. But, yeah, just has to, go back, has a great team around him, Sinner. I'm sure they'll give him a lot of positivity and kind of get him in the right, mental headspace for the quarters.
Now, of course, Sinner advances to face Ben Shelton, who's the youngest American since Andy Roddick in 2004 to reach the Wimbledon quarterfinals. Now, before we get to the matchup with Sinner, what has stood out to you about what we've seen from Shelton in his run to this point?
Yeah, his big serve and groundies are working so well on the grass. He had a tricky opponent today in Sonego, kind of a streaky player, has known to, take out top seeds in tournaments quickly. And Shelton played him a couple times in majors so far in this year, so we knew it wasn't going to be easy. But, Ben raises his game in big moments, especially on big courts and especially in Grand Slams, and today was no different. So he just really has to continue to keep that first serve percentage high, kind of continue going for big margins against someone like Sinner, who's so great, both on the offense and defense. He really has to continue to kind of play in himself, not go for too much. But yeah, we thought he was potentially getting a draw, maybe open up for him to get Dimitrov in the quarters, but he's definitely got a mountain ahead of him here with Sinner.
Yeah, and things are working for Shelton. He's got a support system around him. He got his sister an extra week off of work to stay and continue to support him in that. But how much of a chance do you give him to knock off the top seed on the men's side in Jannik Sinner?
Yeah, I really think it'll be, what mental headspace Sinner is in after this match today. I think if he's back to, the first few rounds in this tournament, it's going to be a really tough day for Shelton. But, Sinner's human. We saw that today. He hadn't really, expressed any kind of human qualities in the first few rounds, not losing a set. He was playing, otherworldly tennis. So I think if he's, locked in as he was in those first few rounds, it's going to be really hard for Shelton. But again, if he plays, more similar to today, where he's leaking a few more, unforced errors, his first serve percentage is a little low, I definitely give Shelton a decent chance.
Now, Novak Djokovic, he got off to a slow start, but found his form to take down Alex de Minaur in 4 sets. What did you take away from the way that Djokovic was able to advance?
Yeah, like you said, he struggled with his serve in the first set today. He double faulted 2 breaks away early in the first set, really couldn't find his rhythm. De Minaur just was playing super solid and kind of just rolled in the first set. His depth, De Minaur's depth, was so impressive today. Really forced Novak to stay behind the baseline, forced a lot of errors. And honestly, for the men's game, De Minaur has really low RPMs on his ground strokes, meaning he hits super flat. And that works really well on grass. So it was certainly suiting him today. But, when you're playing a legend like Novak and they're kind of playing below their level, maybe they're, a little bit off, you're kind of playing the waiting game a little bit as to when they're going to pick things up. It's kind of a scary feeling when they start to, get fired up and string some good points together, because momentum can really shift so quickly. So we saw that in the second set. There were 3 breaks in a row. Djokovic started to slowly find his footing, start to, bring those Djokovic patterns together that he likes to play, threw in a few fist pumps, started to kind of get his positive energy up and ended up winning the second and third playing much better tennis. De Minaur didn't go away quickly, though. He's such a fighter. He looked like we were heading to a fifth set. There was a really long game at 4-2 in the fourth, but Djokovic ended up coming back, closed it down 4. I think he's looking better than he did at Roland Garros. I think he's got a better chance, especially on the grass. He likes the surface more, and he's really comfortable on it. So I give him a good shot.
We'll love to see it. Well, Djokovic, he's moving forward to face Italy's Flavio Cobolli in the quarterfinals. How would you evaluate Djokovic's chances to win Wimbledon for an 8th time at this stage?
Yeah, I would say, he's got Sinner in the semifinal. I don't think he's quite good enough to beat Sinner right now. Maybe the Sinner from today, but not from the first few rounds. He's got Cobolli in the quarters, another young Italian in the top 25, super live arm, super athletic, hits a big ball and moves well. Took out Cilic today, which isn't an easy out. I think Cobolli might be able to push Djokovic a little bit, but he's not going to get through. I think De Minaur was a tougher matchup for Novak, so I see Novak for sure getting to the semis. I think it'll be, what Sinner shows up after what we saw today. I think Djokovic can easily take down the Sinner that we saw today, so it'll really be if Sinner can, kind of rebound, take out the American Ben Shelton, and then, get in the right headspace for the semi.
Now, CiCi, let's turn to the women's side. American Emma Navarro beat the defending champ in round 3, but her run falls short in round 4 with a loss to Mira Andreeva. Now, what is preventing her from getting over the hump?
Yeah, Navarro honestly flew under the radar at Wimbledon this year. Her game transfers well to grass. She's got great hands, a really nice slice. She likes to move forward, use her net game. I think honestly today it was really her opponent. Andreeva was super tough. We knew Navarro would have to come up with some special tennis to beat the youngster. Andreeva was won their only previous meeting also in straight sets last year, so it's kind of a tough matchup for Navarro. Andreeva played incredible. Navarro honestly looked a bit nervous out there. It was center court, it's a big stage. We hadn't really seen that from Navarro, and it was actually Andreeva's first time playing on center, and she looked way more comfortable than Navarro. So honestly, I think, Andreeva will be playing for the championship on Saturday if she continues the level she brought today. Navarro, I think it's just, more reps in those kind of bigger moments. I think sometimes she gets a little bit nervous. She's so rock solid in first rounds, but when it gets to kind of the bigger moments, we haven't seen her break through that, kind of big upset or stage in a Grand Slam quite yet.
Yeah, the big stage is a moment for some people. Iga Swiatek, she's been handling it well. Iga Swiatek had no issues in her match, cruising past Claire Towson in straight sets. She's the 3rd highest ranked women's player left in the field. So how would you evaluate her chances of winning Wimbledon?
Yeah, she played really solid today. It was honestly really impressive. She's kind of finally showing that, Grand Slam winning form again after not having her best season so far. She hasn't won a title yet in 2025, which is especially surprising, during the clay season when she's been so dominant in the past. But she's worked her way into Wimbledon and in grass in general, which is not her most comfortable surface. It's kind of been interesting watching her first few matches. She does struggle a little bit with movement, struggles with pace a little bit to the forehand side, especially on grass. But honestly, today looked, her best ever, I would say, in any grass court match that I've seen her play. She took apart Towson today, looked very dominant. Towson's not an easy out. She's a big hitter. Her game transfers well to grass. So I knew this was going to be a really hard matchup for Iga. And, she got through. I think, she's in the right mental headspace as well. It's looking good for Iga. I would say she's got a nice shot here if she continues how she played today. That's how she got to #1 in the world in the first place. It's, if she can continue that level.
Yeah, lots to keep an eye on in the final week at the All England Club. CiCi Bellis, thanks so much for the insight. Now let's take a look at the odds to win on the ladies' side at Wimbledon. Aryna Sabalenka at -155 is the favorite, followed by Iga Swiatek at +390.